Hello guys, welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to see about L1 and L2 as a regularization methods. So basically, what is regularization? So in the previous lecture, we have seen that we want the machines to learn correct. But when machines are learning wrong, or in other words, when it is overfitting, we are trying to correct those errors. That is where exactly regularization is applied. So two methods of applying regularization is L1 and L2. So what basically L1 and L2 does is it adjusts the weights. What it does? It adjusts the weight. Why it should adjust the weight? Because weights are associated with accuracy. If you assign the weights correctly to the input, only then you can get correct accuracy. Say for example, you have a house prediction. Right? So I have x1, x2. So this x1 I am giving to the size of the house. And this x2 is I am giving the distance from my office. Now, the priority or the weight I am giving for the first x1 is 4, say for example. And the distance from my office is like I am giving a priority of lesser than that, say for example 2. So you have given this. But at times after shifting to the house, you find that distance matters because you are not able to go to the office at what right time. So you think that like even though if the size of the house was little smaller, it wouldn't have mattered that much. But choosing a different distant house was a wrong choice. So in that case, the priority, when your perception changed, the priority for the x2 is 4 and for the x1, which is the size of the house, is becoming 2. So what happened? As your perception changed, you're basically adjusting the weight to, you're like swapping the weight here in this example, right? So this is basically what? Adjusting the weight. Okay, fine. Now, see guys, let's assume you have a kid here. You have a kid, and this kid is, you're giving a picture of a cat. You're giving what? You're giving a picture of a cat. Okay. I don't know, for some reason when I pick this eraser, it's taking longer time to load. Still, see, it's not picking up this. Okay. Here. Now let's imagine you have a kid. So kid is a machine and you're giving training to this kid. What training you're giving? You're giving an image of a cat. So basically you're trying to make the kid familiar with the cat picture, or the machine with the cat picture. So the cat is having whiskers and all. But what you're doing is you're giving all these cat image to be white only. So this kid is basically learning what and assuming what? The cats are white. Now I'm giving you a brown cat. The picture, the cat, the color of the cat is what? Brown. But then this kid or this machine is not able to identify correctly this or generalize correctly, this is a cat, that both white and brown are cat. Instead what it is doing, it is telling it is not a cat. Is it right? Is the machine or the kid learning right? No, right? So what happened internally? It learned the data. It learned the data so well. So whatever new data, whenever new data comes, it is not able to generalize the thing. It was able only to learn the data as such. It memorized the pattern. So when it comes to the new data, it was not able to generalize the pattern, which should not be the case. So to correct this learning patterns, to learn it in a generalized pattern, to make the machine learn in the generalized pattern, we have applied what? Regularization. We have applied what? Regularization. Okay, now let it gets into the detail of L1 and L2 as a method of regularization the learning. Okay, let me erase this first of all. Okay, let me pick red color. What is L1 and L2? It's basically mathematically speaking, we are adding a penalty term. Both L1 and L2, what is doing is it is adding a penalty term to the loss function. Why do we need to add to the loss function? Because we are giving the wrong weights, right? So we want to adjust the weight. That's why we are penalizing what? We are penalizing the weight. So how we are penalizing is what L1 and L2 is going to say. Both are penalizing weight and both are adjusting the weights. There is no doubt about it. There is no change about it. But how it is adjusting the weight is what really matters in this lecture. That is the concept you have to understand in this lecture. So L1 is what it is doing. Suppose for example the weight is 4.5. I'm sorry, this is L2. This one is L1. So suppose you have this weight to be 4.5. So finding the mod which gives you 4.5. What happens in L1 is it introduces sparsity. Sparsity means nothing but it makes the weights, suppose you have 0.05 means, so there is no priority for this input, right? So you can make it 0. So it introduces 0 to the weight, which means that you are removing the weight which is of lower, you are removing the weight which is of lower priority or doesn't add significance to the model. Okay, but in case of L2, what it does it squares the it squares the weight. So in case of L2, when you're squaring the weight, what happens is this actually shrinks the weight but does not remove the weight. It shrinks the weight. It reduces the priority, maybe priority of the weight. That's it. But it's not removed. So where do we apply L1 or where do we apply L2 is purely subjective. When you want to remove the weight, when you want to see, for example, in case of PCA or dimensionality reduction, you want to remove the least significant inputs. So that time you can go with L1. But in certain cases you don't want to remove the weight, but you just want to retain the weight, but you want to give it a low value. In that case L2, in that case what you can do, L2 can be done. In this diagram we can see 3 weights, which is W1, W2 and W3, right? So W1 is 5.0 and W2 and W3 is having 0.5 and 0.3 respectively. Okay, I want you to note what happens with W1 and what happens with W2 and W3, right? Okay, so W2 and W3 is being removed, which basically means L1 is being applied, right? But W1 becomes 4.0, which means L2 is being applied. What is being applied? L2 is being applied, which means the weight is being shrinked. From 5.0 it is shrink to 4.0, right? So we basically apply L1 or L2 based on our needs and requirements, right? I hope this video has given you insights on L1 and L2. This is Lakshmi from The Skyverse Infinity. Thank you.